In this video, we're transforming a HOSK model locomotive into a realistic miniature model by using acrylic and oil paints.
Hello and welcome to a video tutorial in which we will weather an electric locomotive. This is the Swedish State Railway Type MA. It was manufactured in a number of 41 pieces in the 50s, and some of them are still running here on the railways in my area. We will be using both acrylics and oil paints in this video to age this model. And I did a presentation previously, I think it was 6 months ago, on how to get started on oil paints. Acrylics has been covered in a number of videos, and it's very common for model railroaders to use acrylics, but oils is maybe not so common. So if you haven't seen that, have a look at that video first. I put up a link here in the upper right hand corner to it. If you can't see the link, you have disabled those. So then you have the link in the video description below instead. So let's get started with the weathering.
The engine or locomotive we're gonna weather today is the Swedish State Railway Type MA. A total of 41 of these were built between the years 1953 to 1960. The weathering will be made with both acrylic paints as well as oil paints. I typically use acrylic in non-sensitive areas such as on the bogies and in ventilation bars. For those areas I use the same color combination I use to paint the tracks and the roadbed. It's basically a brown color with a stain of black into it. Then I thin it with isopropanol and water. The relation there in that mix is about 9 parts water and 1 part alcohol. Mix the paint with the thinner properly so you get a nice wash from it, and then start applying it onto the sides of the bogies. Also put some here on the buffers where I expect the locomotive to be dirtier than the rest of the part. So like that. Great. I'm also, as I said earlier, using this acrylic paint for ventilation bars like this here on the roof. The reason for using acrylic here is that it dries quite fast and it allows us to use oil paints on top without risk of solving this bottom layer. So now we're gonna highlight the rivets. This is done in 2 steps. The first step is to put a wash, as a cold pin wash, whereas we put oil paint in a darker brown, almost towards the black. It's used from a set of oil paints from Abteilung, and this paint is brown wash. Now both this oil paint and artist oil paints, whatever you choose to use, has a portion of linseed oil in it. This linseed oil needs to be soaked into a paper before you use the paint, otherwise it will simply not dry ever, or at least it will take a long time. Then take a piece of that chunk of oil paint and mix it with odorless turpentine into a thin paint mix and start applying it onto the rivets here. This is really not precision work, but one can say that the less precision you use in this step, the more cleaning you will have to do afterwards. So that's a good thing. I always start out being very precise and exact, and then in the end I'm just being fast. Well, that's me. When ready, leave this to dry at least overnight, or possibly 2 days. Once dry, it's time to clean away excess wash. This is done using a flat brush and odorless turpentine. Wipe most of the turpentine off onto a piece of paper and then start to either push the wash into the rivet seam or just remove it and wipe off excess wash onto your paper cloth like this. Again, leave this to dry now overnight once you have completed the cleaning, because the next step we will dry brush the rivets to get a bit of highlight. They will more like pop out. For this I'm using the ABT 125, which is a light mud, or it's actually a pretty light brown color, so it will not break too much of the color theme of the locomotive, just highlight the rivets. Dip the paintbrush into the paint and then wipe all of it off onto the paper cloth, so you have just a minimum of paint in your brush. Here I am dry brushing the air vents as well as the top rivet seam, which fixes the roof to the body. And then I continue downwards with all the rivets, and as always there's good to do some cleaning. For that I use a cotton swab or cotton pin. I also highlight some of the details on the roof using that same light mud color. Now it's time to also put some road dust onto the lower part of the locomotive body. For this I use burnt umber brown, and I thin that into my airbrush. I start by adding airbrush thinner and then paint. To make it easy for myself, I mix it directly into the airbrush like this, and just with a mix stick just mix it. This paint will be applied quite richly onto the lower part of the locomotive body, the black here, and also the front. But I'm also adding some on the top roof, just 2 pass over the roof and we're done. Look just here how that tiny amount of light mud color makes the rivets pop out and really give that awesome impression of this 1950s loco, as well as the road dust. It really makes a great transformation from being a toy model to look like something that's been on the railway line in real life for a long while.
Well, I hope you liked this tutorial on how to weather brown electric locomotives. Yeah, no, really, it's using different combinations of acrylics and oil really brings weathering to the next level, I think. If you have any questions at all about the methods, materials used in the video, please post them in the comment field below, and I'll try to respond to that as soon as possible. If you like the video, please help others to find it by giving it a thumbs up and share it on your favorite internet forums. Did you know that this channel is made possible because a few of you viewers are supporting the channel? Model railroad is a niche interest, so it will never gather enough of views here on YouTube to finance everything required for the production, like cameras, lights and everything. There's a bunch of stuff required. So if you want to be one of the good guys and want to keep seeing new episodes coming out, please get on to Patreon, set up a support account there, or make a one-off donation via the PayPal dialog found in the video description below. And don't forget to subscribe and enable the little bell, and you will get a notification once next video gets published. Until that happens, see ya.